Hey everybody, ABC 10 meteorologist Brenden Mincheff here. We're going to cover a range of topics. We're going to talk about the snowpack, and we're going to take a look at the reservoir levels, including this picture of Lake Berryessa. It's pretty close to the spillway there, or the glory hole, as some call it. Plus, we're going to take a look at the long term. We haven't mentioned El Nino in a little bit. Still there, it's hanging on, but the end is in sight for El Nino. So let's jump into it. We're going to start with what radar has looked like over the last 48 hours over the course of this weekend in Northern California, because we had some rain, we had some snow. It may have been the first weekend of spring, but honestly, the weather was a lot more winter-like than it was spring-like. You can see the snow we picked up, especially on Saturday, the rain and the thunderstorms we had in the valley. Things are now quieting down across the region and will be for the next couple of days. But that rain and that snow has really done a little extra for our reservoirs and our snowpack. April 1st, typically peak snowpack, getting pretty close to that date. So let's start with this picture that we saw at the top there. Lake Berryessa is pretty close to full. It is at 439.59 feet. It spills down the glory hole at 440.0 feet. So it is less than a foot from spilling. This was sent to us by Karen. This is what it looks like right now. This was sent to us today, and check that out. It's really close. Now you can see a little water there. It's been a little breezy at times, may have pushed some water in. Some of the waves may be splashing down the hole, but the lake technically at 439.59 feet is not spilling. It spills at 440, but it's pretty close at this point. The question is, will it get any higher? Well, there's some more rain in the forecast for later on this week. We'll come back to that in a few minutes, but I also want to touch on the reservoirs. Trinity, 78% capacity, but 108% of average. If you remember last year, Trinity was really lagging behind a lot of the other reservoirs. For the first time since spring of 2020, Trinity is above 100% of average. Shasta, 88% capacity, 114% of average. Oroville, 86% capacity, 125% of average. And Folsom at 67% capacity, that's 113% of average for Folsom as well. So our major water supply reservoirs in Northern California are doing quite well. We'll move a little bit further south. New Melones, 83% capacity, 136% of average there. Don Pedro Reservoir, 83%, 111% of average. Millerton, 73% and 106% of average. Now, the San Luis is an off-stream reservoir, so all the water in it is pumped in. It is at 72% capacity and 85% of average. It does operate differently, though, than all of the other 7 reservoirs that we've taken a look at on this map. But the point is, everywhere is doing exceptionally well. We are at and above average around the state. Again, San Luis is pumped, a little bit different of a story. Now, over the last 48 hours, I mentioned we've gotten some snow across Northern California. The Sierra picked up quite a bit of snow. Honestly, for the late season storm, clocking in over 2 feet is pretty good. Palisades, Tahoe, 27 inches. Kirkwood, Sierra, Tahoe, Homewood, 26 inches of snow. Sugar Bowl, 24 inches. Boreal, 22. North Star, 21. Mount Rose and Mammoth, each 14 inches. Heavenly, 13 inches. Now, these numbers are good through Sunday morning, because that's when the ski resorts go out and measure. So we're recording this Sunday evening. That means on Monday morning, we'll get a new measurement, because we have had some off and on snow showers in the high country through Sunday. So again, these measurements cut off Sunday morning. There's likely going to be another 4 to 6 inches added for some of these areas when the ski resorts go out and measure on Monday morning. So again, added 2 feet plus for many of the Central Sierra snow resorts. What does that mean for our snowpack? Well, the Northern Sierra, 109% of that April 1st average. April 1st is that all-important date that we measure our snowpack by, because our peak snowpack typically occurs on April 1st. That is just about a week from now. And April 1st is important because, again, it is peak. That means we typically add and add and add without melting off a whole lot. And then after April 1st, we typically melt more than we add. That's why it's that peak snowpack. That's why it's that number that we really want to be at and above that average of. So we're pretty close. Central Sierra, 93% of that April 1st average. Southern Sierra, 87% of the April 1st average. We're pretty close. It's an at or above kind of snowpack water year, which honestly is good news. Now, it's nowhere near the numbers that we saw last year. The percent of normal statewide as of March 22nd, 98%. The percent of normal March 22nd, 2023, 1 year ago, 235% of average statewide. So yeah, we know last year was just a crazy historic winter. We got tons and tons and tons of snow, basically from January all the way through March. And it really pushed our numbers significantly above where we would expect them to be. This year is an average year. There's no other way to put it. 98% of average to date statewide is a good year, right? We are where we would expect to be. Our snowpack is what we want it to be heading in to the start of April in just about a week and a half's time. But last year was exceptional. So if we're using last year as our measuring stick, which we shouldn't because really it was an anomalous year, yeah, this year looks kind of sad compared to it. But on an average year, when we use the 30-year average, the climatological average, 98%, that's pretty good. That's, again, where we'd want to be. Now, looking at the weather pattern, high pressure well off into the Pacific, and this low pressure over the Intermountain West is going to keep us in a slightly cooler, kind of cloudy, more unstable pattern for the next couple of days. I do expect most of us will be dry across Northern California, but that high pressure system will be scooting in a little bit, and that'll help keep those rain chances away until later on this week. So, we're not done yet with the rain, right? We have a couple days break, Monday, Tuesday, but then by the latter half of this week, we are introducing more rain chances, more snow chances as well. So look at the weather pattern. There's that low pressure over the Intermountain West that I was talking about. That starts to scoot on out, and high pressure moves in through the first half of the week. But it doesn't really sit overhead and close the storm door. If that high pressure was more over the state as opposed to just over the southern half of it, that storm door closes. But because it's just kind of on the fence there, that storm door stays open. That low pressure there is going to make its way down into the Golden State as we go in towards the end of the week and the weekend. That brings us more rain and, again, more snow chances as well as we work towards the Easter holiday. Now, how long that low pressure stays with us and how quickly it moves on out of here will determine what Easter Sunday looks like, which I know a lot of folks probably have plans for Easter Sunday or sometime during that weekend. We're going to have to wait and see, kind of stay tuned a little bit. But on the back half of that, as we work our way into the start of April, high pressure looks likely to build in overhead. That'll warm our temperatures back up. But again, we're not done with the rain and the snow. The precipitation forecast over the next week has about ½ an inch or more across parts of the valley, 2 to 3 inches of liquid water in the Sierra. That'll translate into several inches, possibly a few feet of snow in the high country. So we're going to have to keep an eye on that. Now, things change, right? The models are not in complete agreement with timing and intensity of that incoming storm for the second half of this week going into the holiday weekend. So exactly how much rain we see, how much snow that translates into, we're going to still work on those details. But it does look to be some accumulating snow, right? And we're talking more than just a few inches. Could see another foot or two in parts of the high country, coastal ranges. Very similar, looking at 1 to 2 inches of liquid water. Now, a lot of us are ready for it to be spring and are ready for the warmer temperatures and the dry weather to stick around. I think when we hit the first day of spring and we had temperatures in Northern California in the 70s, in fact, we were close to 80 degrees a couple days. I think a lot of us were like, all right, yeah, this is spring. We're ready for this. I like this. Windows are open. I get to do things outside. Well, pump the brakes on that, because even though it's spring and we expect things to start drying out, and they do, April still averages almost 1.5 inches of rain in Sacramento. You see that number there, 1.44 inches, the average monthly rainfall downtown. So even though it's not one of our rainiest months per se, November, December, January, February, and March all average more rain than April, it's not our driest month either. It's really in between. You see October there, just under 1 inch of rain on average. May, about 3/4 of an inch. In June, just a couple tenths. It is not wet, not necessarily dry. It just means that April really is the month that things change. So our pattern does start to wind down, for sure. You can make that argument that April typically signifies the end of our rainy season. Sure, I'll buy that argument. Things typically change, especially from where we were over the last 4 months. December, January, February, all averaging over 3.5 inches of rain. March averages almost 3 inches of rain. And then April, it does significantly drop off. So we're getting there. We're just not there quite yet. And over the next 10 days, I think that emphasis is on we're not quite there yet, because we start off Monday, Tuesday, we start off kind of dry. We'll be in those mid to upper 60s. Then Wednesday into Thursday, that next system comes in. We're going to see some more rain, some more snow. Friday, back in the low 60s. The average high for this time of year is close to 70 degrees in the valley. We're going to be 10 degrees below that by the end of the work week. I know it's also spring break for a lot of kiddos this week, so a lot of folks want to be outside doing things, keep the kids entertained. Unfortunately, we do have more rain. Don't put that umbrella away just yet. Saturday, as things stand right now, does look to be that transition day from wet and cooler to drier and warmer. So Easter Sunday coming up just 1 week from now, 68 degrees, the current forecast high. And for now, I am expecting mostly dry conditions, especially from about Stockton, Modesto to the north. I do think the chance for snow showers in the Sierra is there Sunday. I think we can't completely rule out that we'll see some showers on Sunday in the valley. It's just that generally Sunday looks drier than what we'll see on Saturday and certainly to end the work week. Now, beyond that, high pressure is expected to return overhead. That brings temperatures back towards average for the time of year in those low 70s. We look to stay dry as well, but even really long range, talking 14 plus days from now, right? 2 weeks plus. I still see some signals that another storm will make its way into Northern California, potentially bring us some more rain and some more snow. So again, not the end of it. Like we talked about, April averages 1.5 inches of rain, and so we're not done. I do want to talk about El Nino, though. Taking a look at the sea surface temperature anomaly, and you notice we still have that El Nino signal. Across the equatorial Pacific, we see those red colors. That indicates warmer than average temperatures. And this is all in degrees Celsius because that's how we measure and how most of the world measures temperature, but specifically how we measure sea surface temperature when we talk about El Nino. Zooming into the coast of South America, one of the things that does jump out at you off the coast of Peru and Ecuador is that blue coloring. Now, blue indicates cooler than average temperatures. And with El Nino, we have warmer than average temperatures. And so what this is showing us is that the end of El Nino is not that far away. If we're getting cooler than average temperatures surfacing off the coast of Ecuador, that pushes out west. That's how the ocean circulation works over the course of weeks and months. The water pushes back out to the west. And so this cooler water will work its way into the equatorial Pacific. And again, that would mean the end of El Nino. Right now, what's known as the Niño 3.4 index, it is plus 1.12 degrees Celsius, which is still El Nino by about 1 degree Celsius. Notice we still have those red coloring. We're not seeing the blue colorings just yet, showing that we would have cooler than average temperatures. But when we dig into the data, we start to see where things change. So this is showing us that equatorial Pacific Ocean temperature, but this is showing us kind of the depth, right? So this is at the surface, this very top line where it says 0, right? It says 0 over there. Then 100 meters deep, 200 meters, 300 meters, 400, 500 meters deep. And what we're looking at here is the temperature of the water. So this is the sea surface, this is below, and we're noticing some cooler water starting to surface, right? This would be like 14, 15 degrees Celsius water compared to the 28, 29 degrees Celsius water that's currently sitting at the ocean surface. When we look at the anomaly, right, how much warmer or cooler than average that water is, what we see is a large wave underneath. Again, this is still deep, so 100, 200, 300 meters deep. We're seeing a large Kelvin wave of cooler than average temperatures. So this would be 1 degree C, 2 degrees, 3, 4 degrees Celsius cooler than average. Now, the way this circulation works, right, this is out in the far western Pacific. This is more like central Pacific. And then right here would be the coast of South America. So the way that the ocean circulation works underneath the surface is this water is traveling this way up and then pushes out across the surface. So it's kind of a big circle like this. And what that means is this water is coming to the surface of South America in the coming weeks. That's, again, 3, 4 degrees Celsius cooler than average water. When that gets to the surface and eventually gets pushed out, that means, again, El Nino coming to an end. Right now, it's at 1.12, like we talked about. It has seen a little resurgence in the last couple of weeks, but in general, you see where it was at almost 1.5. In December, January, it was over 1.5, close to 2 degrees, plus 2 degrees C above average, right? And that means, again, El Nino on the way out. Here's what it looks like when we put the spaghetti models on it. So start of April, right about here, still El Nino, but we're trending out of it. That 0.5 degree mark, plus minus, is when we are technically in neutral conditions, not El Nino or La Nina. May would be somewhere right in here, and that looks like a shift to neutral conditions. July, now we're well into La Nina territory, and by the time we get in towards the fall and winter months, it looks like we will be roughly minus 1.5 degrees Celsius, which again would be well into La Nina conditions for next fall. So that typically means we go back to a drier pattern. That typically means our winters are a little drier than normal. So just that's kind of the long range, right? We talk a lot about the long range stuff. I think California in a lot of ways has to talk about the long range stuff because of the way that our water system works, our snowpack, our reservoirs, and all that. So at the tail end of winter, we're not done yet. Like I've said several times now, not done yet. We got more to come. Not a whole lot, but we start to wind down at this point. And then the ultra long range, talking about El Nino and La Nina, you can see that we're transitioning back into what is likely going to be a drier than average fall and winter. But we've seen exceptions to that. Download the ABC 10 Plus app, Apple TV, Roku, Fire TV. You can get these in-depth forecasts and explainers like the one you're watching right now. You can also see those weather specials that the ABC 10 weather team produces. Again, that's on your Apple TV, Roku, and Fire TV. You can also watch us on YouTube. Thanks for watching, everybody. Stay happy, stay safe, and enjoy the cooler and wetter pattern while it's here, because it might be one of our last opportunities for several months to see the rain. So all in good time, we'll get to that warmer weather. Thanks for watching.